This week on Project UX, we're going to open up the vault to take a look at startup PotaVida. They have a water purification system that utilizes solar energy, and the key topic and focus here is that of universal design. The UXperts dove into really doing the proper UX research to understand the wide differences between cultures and how to create something that can be understood by all. It's a crucial topic, and we hope you enjoy this episode chock full of great UX content.
PotaVida's mission is to bring data-driven decision-making to the disaster relief and aid world. To do that, we develop hardware and software products that capture accurate usage data in the field and distill into actionable reports for decision makers. Our first product is a household-level water purifier that is driven by sunlight and electronically captures its own usage. So right away, I want to hand you one of these to look at yourselves, and you'll notice that the directions on that are actually not in English. One thing that you can keep in mind as you're looking at that is that many of the users of this product actually don't know how to read. So this is the Smart Solar Purifier. It's very easy to use. This is a 10-liter bag. You fill it with water, press the start button, and put it out in the sun. Once it's out in the sun, you'll wait for a little bit less than 6 hours in typical conditions for the red light to turn green. When you see the green light, that means the water's been exposed to enough UV from the sun to kill the bacteria and viruses and make it safe to drink. Then you can hit the stop button and you're ready to go again. This is a reusable product with a 1-year design lifetime and a 5-year shelf life. So that's the water purification piece. What our customers really get excited about, and our customers are aid organizations, is how we capture usage information, and that's electronically. So let me walk you through how our app works that is used as a mobile device to capture that usage information. So a user of our mobile app, who's the field staff at an aid organization, is first presented with a prompt to plug in the data capture tool. Once they've done that and the mobile phone recognizes it, they're prompted to press both buttons on the purifier. When they do that, they're going to see a progress bar that shows that data is being transferred from the purifier to the mobile device. And as that finishes, they're going to get a green check mark showing that it was successful, and then they see a report on the screen of exactly how the purifier was ever used, how it's been used since the last time they downloaded information, and how it's being used right now. That includes when they press the start button, how far along it is, and when it will be finished. And from there, that data is actually GPS tagged on the phone, and it's passed up to our computers, which gets beyond the scope of our discussion now. But that's the data that we use to generate reports that then go back to the same field staff and to their superiors and even to the fundraising people at an aid organization.
All right, so I'll ask you the same question as the others, and that's around what user research you've done as part of this project.
We've actually been very intentionally user-centered about our design process. This design in some concept form, and in some cases as a non-working concept, has actually been put in front of end users 4 times before we got to the design that we have now. And in our case, that meant taking concepts or mock-ups or prototypes of the product to Nicaragua, Zambia, and Uganda to get to where we are now. And the product that you see in front of you now is actually deployed at about 375 households in Haiti, where it's been used since late May. Yeah,
and then this one piece of feedback on the instructions. Did you get any feedback around this first step of you pour the water in and I see this blue water versus this, don't use this brown water?
Correct.
And my question is if this is an air or a water purifying system, it looks like I can't put dirty water in here. I can't use water. And isn't that the purpose of the device?
That's a great point. And so what we're trying to do is encourage people to use the clearest water that they can find. That's the intent of that graphic. I'd love to find a better way to communicate that there, of course, is a continuum. And if that's all you have, then you should use that water, but you'll get the best results with clear water.
I'll stick on the just the visualization here for a moment.
Sure.
I mean, one thing that I think you can do with particularly your first image, you're treating it kind of binary, and I think that is the problem, right?
Yes.
So if you have greater variation, or at least what you would expect to be some of that variation pictured, and what might be acceptable and what might not be acceptable from a gradient perspective, as opposed to just showing it binary, I think will help communicate that idea that it's not, dirty water versus clean water, at least for the first visualization. In the last image where it's showing you have clean water, it's a little bit odd. What does that say? Does it say stop? Yeah, it's not clear for me why it says stop. It's not, the word doesn't necessarily associate with any meaning as it relates to the idea that this water is now drinkable.
Yeah.
So did you have a different intention for that terminology?
Well, so I think the communication challenge at the end there is the green light tells you the water is drinkable. That's the second to last frame. And what follows that is the step where you turn the device off so that you're not continuing to use power until the next time that you want to use it. So the stop button is also a reset button, is also an off button.
I wonder what the mental model of the people who are using it construct. How do they, without knowing how this technology works, because this isn't, I'm guessing, isn't something that's a part of their life or that they would be able to intuit, is there another model for how this works that you might be able to use to structure your instructions so that instead of the engineer's approach of, okay, well, I know how this works, how do I make it simple? Is there something that may not necessarily be technically true, but that makes sense and creates the kind of behavior you need in order for this to be effective?
It might be worth it to mention that this is a timer, if that's what it's supposed to be, right? Like it's not clear to me. Like when I first saw this, I was like, that's exactly what I thought. Like, oh, that somehow, when it seems like now that you've explained it, oh, this is just a timer to say like, hey, it needs to be out there in the sun for a couple of hours or something like that?
There's an important nuance that it's not a timer, it's a cumulative exposure monitor. So the amount of time that it takes until you see the green light could be as little as 4 hours, it could be as long as 2 days, depending on how bright the sun is.
I think this is something that proposes a falsehood to pragmatically solve the problem. So I would hope, and I'm sure you would test it rigorously, but to encourage people to think that this is doing the purifying. Because then it's a simpler model than saying like, oh, it's an exposure detector. And is there a way to maybe fill it up, start purifying, it needs to be in sun, wait, and then once it's done, stop purifying.
How then do I convince them of the importance of having it in the sun, and not just in the sun at all, because people will put it up sideways or upside down or whatever. I want you to put it out the way you'd put out a solar panel, and people do have solar panels every once in a while.
Change the focus to be like, this is a system that requires sunlight, and is that like the primary thing? Because you only see the small little image of the sun, and like I didn't know that was like the most important thing. And then also, do you put something on here to say like this side up?
And how do you do this side up with no language? What I love to get to is no text on my directions at all.
I wouldn't be surprised if different communities, I'll be interested to hear what you two have to say about this, but if different communities have different instruction strips, right, that may be iconographic, and maybe you have 1 step or 2 steps, but it's essentially leveraging local knowledge that I think for isolated communities is going to vary probably pretty widely.
So certainly look into individuals that create different types of iconography, but you can also create some yourself. You could follow a very similar like IKEA model, right, in terms of the simplicity of the visualization. They don't even use color to speak to particular elements on the design and the experience. But I would certainly create a wide variety of imagery for each of the individual steps, but also kind of taking micro steps as well to really understand and fine-tune at what step people will have the most problem, and then start to show those variations to individuals. And that's a great way of just testing any type of idea, is just to create multiple variations, and then you'll start to fine-tune precisely what visualization is working without the need for text. I would even just start without text. Just if that's your mantra, if that's your idea, just go ahead and remove it, and then hold yourself to that bar.
Sure, I like that idea. We've done a bit of that, but it hasn't unfortunately involved end users. We've internally said, here's how many ways can we show how this goes. To your point though about doing the variations and quick iterations, we actually did that with our app for that usage report display that you saw, and that's another area where I'd love to get feedback on how we can do even better there.
Okay, so this is used for the field staff person who's going into someone's home to see if they're using this device correctly.
Correct.
How are they determining if they're using it correctly based off of this? Because they would have to have it turned on and using it to be able to know if it...
Well, they could also simply put, has it been used since the last time they came to the home? And you see that there are a count of cycles that have been aborted, timed out, and successful. So successful is what we want, of course. Aborted means you hit the stop button sometime before the purifier was able to finish. And timed out, we actually don't let the process go longer than 2 days because we don't know with confidence that taking longer than that won't give the bacteria a chance to grow back.
First of all, there are things you could do graphically to make the UI just a little friendlier, of course.
Yeah.
But then there's also, I think, beyond that, an opportunity here where if there are a lot of aborted cycles or there are a lot of timed out cycles, this might be a place where you could have tips for field staff on how to educate the people who are using these. And it might be the kind of thing like the instructions that changes from place to place. So that this might be an opportunity, as you think about the app in the future, to basically rely less on having field staff that are highly educated in the system and how it works and like what is and what isn't there, and offload some of that into the app.
So what we found is that coming in, all of our assumptions about how you should interact with people in their homes, that is the last thing that we're going to be experts in. Our challenge is to communicate to the field staff what is going on and let them use their judgment to decide how to interact with people to improve upon that.
So it's always local field staff. They're always people from the community.
Yes, yes. And teaching them to use the app is a challenge. It's something that we've done in person so far, and we really, of course, need to figure out a way to make things, if possible, intuitively obvious, or at a minimum, maybe a written curriculum they can walk through to understand how to use it.
Because I'm seeing the screen for the first time, I think I'm getting really stuck on a lot of the terminology that's confusing me, right? So, what is previous in this scenario? What is new in this scenario? Because isn't new the current cycle? Again, in my mind, the way that I'm thinking about it, and that's just natural in terms of the way that I'm perceiving it, right? In terms of first-time usage. One way of exploring that with those individuals, or really any individual, is to explain the product themselves and then ask them, can you describe the type of data that would come out of an app like this that would show you some stats about the performance of this device? And then start to listen around what terminology they're using to describe those things. And then you'll start to develop some patterns, or you hear some patterns around what people are saying and describing it, and you can utilize that terminology when you're talking about these instances of success cycles, aborted cycles, timed out cycles. They sound very system oriented as opposed to people oriented.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We'd love to know what you think in the comments below, so like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It means the world to us, and we'll be back soon with more UX content for you coming your way. Until next time.